So we're just going to have a little look at how both the Pathfinder tool works and we're going to have a little look at how layers work in Illustrator. A combination of really how you organize the files and how you combine shapes together. So it's one of the sort of key concepts of how you organize yourself using Illustrator. So let's start by drawing a rectangle. And then we'll draw an ellipse. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll go and have a little look at our layers window. So we've got the window layers open up there. And you can see that at the moment, what we have is two of our objects, the ellipse and the rectangle on each layer. These don't really work in the same way as Photoshop. They've got a very different sort of functionality, as you're about to see. In Photoshop, it's a way of dealing with the issue that the images are stored as pixels, okay? And then thereby the selection of images and parts of images is much more complex. So when you put them on layers in Photoshop, by having different components of an image on different layers allows you to be able to manipulate and move the different elements around. Because we're working with objects here, that becomes a little less necessary. However, when you start to do things like combine the objects together, so what we can do here is we can group them together using the object group. And now you'll see it's created a single layer, but then there's a sub-layer within that. And then each of those sub-layers, okay, can then be edited individually, or they can be edited together. So if I wanted to change the color of the group, I can. But on the other hand, I can go in and I can edit the layer individually as well. And you can see up here, this is how you manage and work out where you are within the stack, within the layer up here. Okay, so we're coming back out and back up to the top. And now when you select them, they work together. And there they are over here. And at any given time, you can also go to Object, Ungroup. Okay, so now we've got them ungrouped again. So that's one way of thinking about how they work together. The other is how you might combine the shapes together. Now here we've overlapped them, but if I drag this across and go to my properties, we get the Pathfinder tool. And we're going to have a look at this, how this works here in Illustrator, and then also how it works in Photoshop, because you'll see it being used in different disguises over and over again. The first one we're going to click is to unite both the objects together. And you can see that it's taken the dominant shape, the one on the top, changed the color of the one in the background, and combined them into one single shape. And if we now look at our layers, we've now got one shape on one layer. Okay, if I undo that and go and have a look at some of the other options, we've got this one which will cut a hole out. So it uses this as a kind of a cutter to cut out a shape. Okay, and that we can see here. Now this is a different way of combining to create what we call a compound shape. So you can see now it's now created a shape out of that shape. And then the one that is probably the least useful, as you can see there, we've created and remove that element from the shape. Okay, let's go back to the beginning shape and have just a closer look now, because what we do have is we go and use our tool up here. We've got individual paths for these, which can be edited individually. Should we want to do something with that? Okay, so that's the first stage of thinking about how you combine the shapes together and how they work and how you manage those shapes. Okay, and so that's now automatically grouped those together. Okay, to make a single shape rather than a group. So just to recap, if I go back, what you have is a way of, let's try and change the color of that and create a second shape. Just going to deselect. Okay, so we have a second shape. So now we can do a number of things. We can just group them together. Okay, well, they'll work group. So now they can work as a group together. You see, got those in the sub layer of the group. Okay, this one's a single shape. If you wanted them to work as a single shape, okay, I'll just ungroup those. So now they're back being individual shapes. If I go and select both of them in my properties menu, I've got a choice of combining them. And now I've got just two shapes on each layer. So how does that work in Photoshop? So what's going on when we use our shape layer in Photoshop? Let's just have a look, because we get a similar effect. So if we go and create a rectangular layer, okay, and then we'll create a second ellipse, circle, okay, on there. Now, up here, I've got this selected, so I'm going to go to select combine shapes this time, and then I'm going to go and move that shape over there, and it's automatically now adding the necessary combination, which is quite a nice way of working. And of course, I've also got the subtraction of that going on. So you can see it's happening live as you move around that shape. So that's really working in exactly the same way. And then you've got all the other options in there for how you combine and work with the shape. Okay.